All public companies and institutions will own Bitcoin. Michael Saylor says it's only a matter of time.
You saw MicroStrategy, we bought 10 million, and then we bought another 10 million, and then I found another billion. And so we bought another billion. So I think you see an avalanche of publicly traded companies. I mean, there were none 12 months ago, and now it's one after the other. And there's 1,000 big institutions that are in it right now. So I think 2021 is the year that sovereign wealth they'll start to dip their toe in it. They'll get in a little bit. And I think some more of these hedge funds will move. I think you'll see, the number of publicly traded companies double. You had 2, then you had 4, then you had 8, then you had 16. We'll be marching our way through the teens. But of course, they're not all created equal, right? Because one of them might drop $1 billion. You'll see $100 million buys, $200 million buys. Maybe you'll see a few $1 billion buys.
Every public company will add Bitcoin to their balance sheet or suffer the consequences. It's only a matter of time. In this video, we delve into why MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor is betting an enormous amount of his company's assets on Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is currently worth nearly $7 billion in market cap, and it holds 90,532 Bitcoin, which is worth almost $5 billion in today's prices. Before Saylor's company started investing in the cryptocurrency, they were 6 times less than they were today. So it's obvious from an investor's perspective that his Bitcoin strategy is working phenomenally well. And once a publicly traded company like MicroStrategy takes a bold risk and comes out victorious like that, other public companies are bound to emulate it, which is exactly what we saw with Tesla. In December of 2020, Tesla CEO Elon Musk had a brief conversation with Saylor on Twitter in which he told Musk, and I quote, "If you want to do your shareholders a $100 billion favor, convert the Tesla balance sheet from USD to BTC. Other firms on the S&P 500 would follow your lead, and in time, it would grow to become a $1 trillion favor." And indeed, following Saylor's advice, Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin last February 8th.
So I think the Tesla acquisition of $1.5 billion, it was a rational move on his part. I think what we saw next was Square just put out the announcement that they bought another $170 million. And the message of that is that they're not done, and this is going to be a continual thing. But now you have people like Gartner Group doing surveys, and Gartner said, well, only 5% of companies want to do this, but maybe 15% will be looking at it in the next year. And I'm thinking, well, 5% of 4,000 companies is 4,000 publicly traded companies is a massive amount. Well, I think the last 2 months have been really, really good. I think February 8th was an inflection point for legitimizing a Bitcoin as an institutional safe haven asset. I think that's the day that the Tesla 10K came out.
Yep.
And since that came out, you've got Mellon announcing they're supporting it. There's news today that Morgan Stanley is going to get involved with Bitcoin and support an ETF. There is news today that JP Morgan suggested that people should allocate 1% to Bitcoin. We had the Canadian Bitcoin ETF that came out, and they raised $450 million in the first 2 days. Most successful ETF launch ever in Canada. You saw an announcement of NYDIG today with an open-ended Bitcoin mutual fund. Marathon is a Bitcoin miner, bought $150 million worth of Bitcoin back at 31,000, so all these companies have been moving aggressively. Now they've got 250 million worth of Bitcoin. Hut 8 announced they're hodling Bitcoin. So it's kind of breaking into the consciousness, and people have to address it now. They're asking, Janet Yellen what she thinks. They're asking Bill Gates what he thinks. They're asking the CEO of Uber and the CEO of General Motors, are you going to buy Bitcoin? They're not asking them if they're going to buy anything else. Are you going to buy the S&P index? At this point, Bitcoin for corporations and corporate treasuries has become part of the conversation. I think you see a lot of recurring themes, and As that happens, I think the dam is breaking. This story is broken into the mainstream media, and you're starting to see stories in Bloomberg and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Straits Times in Hong Kong and Ireland and London, the Financial Times. The Financial Times put it on the front page of the paper, and the headline was something like, "Is Bitcoin now going mainstream?" And the answer is yes. When mainstream papers ask that question on the front page, they're asking and answering the question for you.
As Saylor proclaims, Bitcoin is at the center stage of the investment world. And frankly, it's only a matter of time before it becomes mainstream, even beyond the investment world. We have business magnates who are less vocal about blockchain and cryptocurrencies in the past, who are now saying nice things about Bitcoin and crypto in general. We have Kevin O'Leary allocating 3% of his portfolio in Bitcoin. Gary Vaynerchuk focusing on NFTs as his content topic on all of his channels as of late, and mainstream media above all has been covering Bitcoin news every single day. It's safe to say crypto is well beyond a mere niche market right now. Things have changed since that last bull run in 2017 in many different ways, but most remarkably so, the way people talk about them. Back then, influencers were all shills and had little to no substance. Today, we are seeing more and more crypto people able to eloquently describe specific use cases that are more accurate and factual. There's just less hype and more facts, which is likely why I think this bull run will last significantly longer than last time. We're not riding solely on hype anymore. Both retail investors and high net worth institutional executives have concretized the benefits of blockchain technology. And this puts pressure on the government, considering the fact that no Bitcoin ETF has been approved in the United States. But public companies, especially tech companies, are a lot smarter and more agile. We might see most of them move into crypto first.
Yeah, I think the buy has been de-risks. Now we're still in year one, right? Like year one of institutional adoption of Bitcoin started. You can either say it started in April or it started on August 10th when MicroStrategy dropped the $250 million buy. And we're still early. Here's the dynamic, right? Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon. Especially, you've got the Facebook, Apple, Google dynamic, right? I mean, Google Android is struggling with iOS. Facebook is sitting between the two of them. They've all got kind of a uncomfortable love-hate co-opetition relationship. If all three of those companies, those big three, because they're all big and mobile, right? Amazon's the fourth, but especially Facebook, Google, and Apple. Those three, if they do nothing, then Square and PayPal are going to consistently and gradually rip away their accounts. The reason that PayPal moved is Square forced them to move, right? When Square moved, PayPal had to move. Now, PayPal and Square are wrestling with this, and it's possible that all three of the big three do nothing, in which case Square, that's the best thing that could happen for Square and PayPal, right? But it's not likely. There's that phrase, three people can keep a secret if two of them are dead. Well, there's three. Okay, you can keep Bitcoin from exploding through the entire mobile space if all three of them agree not to compete with each other. But I don't think that's going to happen. One of them's going to move.
Yeah, and you're making me think of Zuckerberg because he copies everything that's legit, and he copied Libra. That was a huge push. He hired David Marcus, who was the PayPal guy, who was bullish on Bitcoin. So I know Facebook is thinking about, I think they were doing some sort of remittance payment with WhatsApp in India as well. So I feel like, to me, Facebook seems like the most to integrate into their service, even beyond buying some on their balance sheet, is like just imminent.
In my opinion, Facebook has the most to gain and needs to do this. Facebook is kind of the odd man out because they need to have a mobile app that's running on iOS and Android, and they're getting pressured by Apple with the latest privacy token maneuvering, and you can see the sparks flying there. So how do I upgrade my application so that it is so valuable that 1 billion people swear you will have to pry it from their cold, dead finger? Okay, it's like, you're going to take away my photos, you're going to take away my friendly chats, or you're going to take away my money. I think Apple and Google, it's an opportunity for them. And if they don't move, then Square and PayPal just get stronger and stronger until somebody notices.
Now it's time to come full circle to the original point of this video, which is the prediction that all public companies will eventually own Bitcoin. And I say prediction coming from the basis that nothing is ever certain. But if we have to borrow a quote from Elon Musk, it is inevitable. For sure, tech and financial companies will have to take the lead on this movement because obviously crypto is fintech. And we have witnessed this with MicroStrategy, Tesla, Square, etc. And soon Apple, Amazon, and Facebook will likely follow until every public company does. MicroStrategy and the others are early adopters. The most likely reason why they purchase Bitcoin is to gain profit. But the late majority will be forced to buy some not because they want to make gains, but because not doing so will hurt them, because of fiat's negative returns. And that's the price they will pay for not taking the risk of buying Bitcoin early, like Michael Saylor and his company did.